Using any three prescribed texts show that life is a combination of successes and failure. Successes and failure. Candidates are supposed to find out instances of success and instances of failure in each text. In twilight of misty foliage, the people of Sajem have success in their marginalization, discrimination, and injustices over Sambis put in place by the conspiracy and orchestrated by Reverend Rodberger and the elites of Sajem. He does everything to make Sambis to remain slaves to Sajem by refusing their positions of authority within the church. They are relegated only to the position of load carriers. Doctrinal classes are based on the syllabus taught in Sajem, and even the notes that are sent to them are unexplained. Reverend Rodberger dismantles all the buildings and stops the water project that had been serving the people in Sambis. Polygamists in Sajem participate in Holy Communion. Excuse me. And Reverend Rodberger's answer is that give to Caesar what is Caesar, to indicate that Sajemites are better than Sambisans. The people of Sajem also have success over Sambis in administrative matters. There is a well-oiled conspiracy between the elites of Sajem all over Wanetemu and the local administrators to strip Sambis of the seat of administration. There is conflict between the people of Sambis and the administration when there is an announcement for the transfer of the administrative seat to Sajem. The gendarmerie, police, and local guards come in, making many arrests and many people confined without any charge. Secondly, the husband of the woman succeeds in punishing Wumwa for chasing his wife and luring her to committing adultery. The man had warned him to leave his woman alone, but he had not heeded to the advice. He had followed the woman to the farm to have sex, and when he was about to get into action, the man had sent bees that had attacked him and left him in a terrible state. The people of Sambis register success over the domination of Sajem by standing firm against their exploitation and discrimination. Sambis boycott the doctrinal examination, citing many injustices and irregularities which do not give them a fair chance to compete with Sajem. The senior district officer convokes both camps to Mbaken for negotiation and consultation. Both camps meet, and be my orders that the infiltrated men from Sajem in Sambis delegation should be sent out of the hall and refuse to take bribe from Ponwe, highlighting corruption. At the end, many concessions are made to Sambis in order for peace to reign, and they go back home chanting victory songs. Potre had success over Antombo in the plain of Bizet. When the former wins him in a final match, the result is that both friends fall out with one another, and Pochuen resents the game from then on. State Council has success over senior district officer over the collection of money from traffic controls. The former does not want to share the booty because the district officer has land commissions to feed fat on. Lastly, Cardinal Mpochuen succeeds to escape death when his abductors leave him thinking that he is dead. He survives despite the brutality that he has suffered in the hands of his abductors. He finally forgives the hoodlums and the mastermind behind his abduction. On the other hand, Mpochuen fails to stop Reverend Bante when he announces to the family that Mpochuen has been called to pastoral service, leading him to send the clergyman away, and he faints. This is because the man had placed high hopes on his son to become an influential person in his community. At the end of it all, the young Mpochuen becomes a highly admired and respected priest. Mfenyi fails to deliver the Gangbo family to the authorities. The people of Feimbo had killed some German soldiers in a gruesome manner and seized their ammunition. The government gives money to Mfenyi to fish out the Gangbo family, leading the people to become furious with him. He goes to fish them out from the cave of Ndaka, where they are hiding, but the people attack his family and animals with bees, rendering him poor at the end. Reverend Rod Berger fails in his diabolic plan to eliminate Cardinal Mpochweng because the former's presence has exposed most of his weaknesses and charisma. He has opened the eyes of the Sambese people who now rebel against Reverend Rod Berger, boycott his sermons, refuse to write the doctrinal exams organized by him. Reverend Rod Berger is the incarnation of evil, as he is immoral, hypocritical, corrupt, jealous, envious, and evil-minded. He does not hesitate to order the elimination of Cardinal Mpochweng by Dracula and his gang, and for his body to be disposed in the most inhumane manner. Nevertheless, he fails because the cardinal survives and the hoodlums are arrested. At the end, the church decides to defrock him because he is a disgrace to his pastoral calling. In the Swamp Dwellers, Awo Chike registers success after leaving the village. Many young men leave the village to the city in search of greener pasture, and many of them succeed while others fail. But Awo Chike is an exception, because in a decade that he has spent in the city, he has become a rich timber merchant, and he has made a lot of wealth. And this has made him to forget about his family. No word is heard about him. His family considers him to be dead. Worst of all, he uses his wealth to seduce his brother's wife and take her away from him. He demands his brother to use his harvest as collateral for a loan that he gives him. And at the end, Igwezu loses it all and comes back to the village frustrated. The Kadie successfully exploits the naivety and gullibility of the villagers who believe in his infallibility to exploit them. The Kadie is wealthy and lives in affluence as seen in his bulk and voice. The beggar dictates that the Kadie is fat and that he lives in affluence, whereas the whole village lives in scarcity. The Kadie appropriates all the sacrifices meant for the serpent deities such as bulls, goats, and grains for himself. While Igwezu attacks the Kadie, his servants run, which is an indication that they know what has been happening with the sacrificial gifts. Igwezu is a total failure because he goes to the city and does not make money as he had intended. Igwezu leaves the village or the city and he meets his brother, and before departure to the city, he had planted his crops on his piece of land, highlighting hard work. He loses everything and comes back to the village to meet his ruined crops. The loss leaves him completely desperate and frustrated to the point that he attacks and exposes the corrupt Kadie. Such an affront is important because it ushers in change. In unanswered cries, Olabisi is successful to extricate herself from the shackles of Bondo tradition. She rebels against an old age institution by running to the forest and later on escaping to Freetown. She also goes through the ordeal of humiliation in court to get a verdict, which is not just her personal victory, but victory for many young girls who have no say concerning female circumcision, highlighting this discrimination. Secondly, highlighting determination. Oya is an epitome of success and an agent of change. Oya uses her education to sensitize the public about the dangers of female genital mutilation. So that people can change their mentalities. She refuses that Olabisi should be circumcised and defends her in court to get a positive verdict, highlighting awareness, love, and change. Adejohn is also successful in court as the verdict is given in the favor of Olabisi. Dr. Asiatu's success uses the misfortune of her daughter to draw the awareness to the health risk involved in female circumcision in order to give Olabisi a favorable verdict in her case against Macaulay. On the other hand, Macaulay and sister failed because they are insensitive to human suffering and they are superstitious. She is Olabisi's mother, who should be the one to care about her daughter's welfare, whereas she is the one who wants to subject her to the ordeal of going through female circumcision. She even hires Pa Amadu to make sure that he brings Olabisi to her so that she can take her to the Bondo camp, highlighting superstition. Although she is educated, Macaulay is blinded by her belief in the Bondo spirits to believe that female circumcision is the only safe passage for Olabisi to get to responsible parenthood and motherhood. She is also afraid of what the Bondo spirits might do to her pregnancy if she does not bring Olabisi to be circumcised, highlighting tradition and superstition. She goes to court to defend her stance, but she loses the case, and Sisi takes up the case just to make money. In The Old Man and the Sea, Santiago can be considered a successful fisherman because despite going for 84 days without a catch, he goes to sea daily and does not give up. He decides to sail further into the sea where no other fisherman had ever set foot in a small boat, which is not suitable for high sea. He is anxious to catch a big fish to prove to his mockers that he still remains one of the most skillful and tactful fishermen. He cuts off the other line so that he can solely focus on the marlin. He fights the marlin for 3 days and nights despite excruciating pain and exhaustion. After the victory over the marlin, he also fights against the shark on his homeward journey when he lashes the marlin against the skiff, and he does so even when he knows that it is a lost fight in advance because he will lose the meat of the marlin to the shark. He kills most of the shark that attack the fish. He also loses his fishing instruments in the process and reaches the shore just with the skeleton of the marlin to win the admiration of onlookers. Victory over the inevitable is not what defines a man. Rather, it is a man's struggle against the inevitable even when he knows or he is aware of the hopelessness that defines whom he is. The more difficult the struggle, the more worthy the opponent is, and the more powerful a man can prove his worthiness. Santiago can also be considered a successful fisherman because he has seen such great fish and has caught too. But not alone, and not as an old man. It is the solitary victory over such a worthy and noble opponent that makes his struggle epic and memorable. Santiago finds comfort and strength by remembering his youth, which is characterized by the hand game that he had with the Negro from Cienfuegos, and who was the strongest man on the docks in Casablanca. Despite him being at odds in the hand game, he had won, earning him the title El Campeón. The lions are slow, graceful, but fierce in the same way that Santiago is old, but a formidable adversary to the marlins and the sharks. Santiago can be considered a failure because he lives in a shack built with guano. He does not have extravagant furniture which comprises a bed, a table, a chair, a stove in a dirty floor. He uses newspaper as part of his bedding and uses his trousers as pillow. There is a drum containing shark liver oil which he drinks regularly to avoid colds and to maintain good sight. Santiago has gone for 84 days without a catch, and this amplifies his impoverished life. He tells Manolin that he has yellow rice and fish, whereas there is no food in the shack. He has also sold his cast mast in order to have some money for his basic needs. In order for Santiago to be fed properly, he has to rely on the generosity of some people, like Martin, who sends him beer through Manolin, which he eats before he goes to bed. Manolin also buys him beer at the terrace before they carry the fishing equipment back to the shack. Perico sends him daily newspapers to keep him company because he cannot afford them. And before he sets foot at sea in the morning, Manolin makes sure that he buys Orin a cup of coffee, and that is the only food that he is going to eat while he is at sea. Everything about Santiago is old except his eyes. His shirt is patched, worn out, and he walks barefooted. He fishes using a skiff, which is an outdated boat because he cannot afford a modern one, while the other fishermen use motor engine boats. His mat has been patched in many places, and he uses old fishing equipment to fish at sea, such as the harpoon. The other fishermen's equipment include the harpoon, knives, and lines instead of nets, which are used by those using the motorboats. He uses old fishing equipment. Thank you for watching. Share our videos with others so that we can all continue in preparing for the next academic year.